So let's talk about a feeling that so many of us have, but we hardly ever put into words. You know, that isolating and frankly exhausting burden of having a really complex thought and just not knowing how to get it out.
You know the moment I'm talking about, right? You're in a meeting or maybe just hanging out with friends, and boom, this incredible, fully formed idea just lands in your brain. It's perfect. It's brilliant. And right as you're about to share it, you just stop. You decide not to.
And what comes out instead? This. Or, maybe you just think it to yourself. Never mind. It's complicated. That phrase, it's like a little white flag of surrender. You're retreating from a battle you already know is probably not worth fighting. The battle of translating what's in your head into actual words people will get.
So what is actually going on in that moment? Let's really dig into this internal struggle because it's so much more than just being shy or not finding the right word. It's a classic experience for anyone who thinks deeply.
See, inside your mind, the idea is completely clear. It's perfect. But it's not just one thought, is it? It's like this whole web of interconnected concepts and nuances and different possibilities. It's like a diamond with 100 facets. But then trying to explain it out loud? It feels like trying to describe that entire diamond by talking about one single flat edge. The words just don't do it justice.
And okay, this gets us right to the heart of the problem. Let's look at why your brain is always playing chess while your mouth is stuck playing checkers. It really comes down to this idea called layered thinking.
Layered thinking is basically your brain's ability to juggle multiple connected ideas all at the same time. You're not just thinking about point A, then B, then C in a nice neat line. Nope, you're thinking about how A and B and C are all influencing X, Y, and Z all at once, in a flash. But speech, well, speech is a one-lane road. It has to go in order.
And this is where you can really see the huge mismatch. In one corner, you've got your internal world. It's this non-linear, super fast network, just rich with all this nuance. And in the other corner, you have verbal conversation. It's a straight line. It's sequential, it's pretty slow, and you have to simplify everything. Trying to cram that complex web into a straight line means something valuable always gets lost in translation.
And yeah, that process, that translation from your brain to your mouth, it's not free. It comes with a pretty big price tag, a mental cost. And that leads to this hidden kind of burnout that's really tough to explain.
I mean, you can probably feel how draining this is just thinking about it. First, the idea itself, that part's easy. It just appears, almost instantly. But then the real work starts. You try to flatten it out, to squeeze it into simple sentences, and you can feel yourself losing important details with every word. And while you're doing all that, you're also scanning the other person's face, right? Looking for that glazed over look, that sign of misunderstanding, or worse, impatience. It's a mental marathon you never even signed up to run.
And check this out. This is kind of wild when you see it laid out like this. Look where all your energy is actually going. Only about 10% is on the actual idea. The vast majority, the lion's share, is spent just trying to translate it, trying to read the room, and then having to re-explain it all over again. You spend way more energy on the packaging than the actual gift inside.
So when you're faced with that level of energy drain, what's the most logical thing to do? A lot of the time, it's just silence. And this is so important to get. That choice isn't you failing or giving up. It's actually a pretty smart strategy.
Because this is how we beat ourselves up about it, right? This is the story we tell ourselves. Ugh, I couldn't explain it. I just gave up. We frame it as a personal failure, like we weren't smart enough or articulate enough to get it across.
But what if we completely flip that script? What if it's not giving up at all? What if it's your brain making a very calculated, very logical choice, a choice for self-preservation over a completely exhausting and probably doomed translation process? And when you really stop and think about it, it makes perfect sense. Staying quiet saves your mental energy, which you don't have an infinite supply of. It actually protects your great idea from being butchered and oversimplified. It lets you sidestep that awful feeling of being misunderstood. And maybe most importantly, it prioritizes your own clear understanding of the idea over just getting a nod from someone else. It's a strategic move. You're just choosing your battles and maybe deciding to write it down later when you can really do the idea justice.
So look, if you're someone who often finds themselves just saying, it's complicated, and retreating into silence, maybe it's time to cut yourself some slack. This quote really says it all. There's a real integrity in knowing that the full, beautiful, complex version of your idea is safe and sound inside your own mind, even if it never gets fully translated for the rest of the world.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Because while silence is a valid strategy, you also have to wonder,
What genius, what incredible innovations, what deep connections are lost to the world? Not because we don't have the ideas, but simply because the cost of explaining them feels too high. Maybe the real challenge for all of us isn't just about having great ideas, but about finding and building better bridges to share them. Definitely something to think about.